I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods, yeah. One in particular, I'm just a messenger, let me just pass on the rock. Browning, Brunning, Bruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. It is Friday, coming to you a little bit earlier than normal. Many people enjoying a long weekend for the first weekend of the year, and it is hard to believe, but we have come to the last weekend of the NFL's regular season. Feels like the season went by in a flash. Fantasy seasons are over, already starting to make draft plans and look at prospects, which we'll get to do all off season. Some of that is watching the college football playoffs, and Dennis, those games have not been particularly close.
I only cared about one of those games, and it was a fantastic game,
but also not particularly close.
Not particularly, and as rightfully so. The Buckeyes played angry, it seemed. They went out there with a chip on their shoulder, and whatever they did differently from that first game, I don't know. There's conspiracy theorists out there talking about how Ryan Day, has thrown the Oregon and the Michigan game because it's a 12-team thing now, 12-team playoff. Yeah, I'm like, that's ridiculous. No, they were trying to win. Will Howard made a bad play in the first one. And against Michigan, we just got beat. We had a bad day. They beat us. It happens. We'll get back on track. But they looked fired up, and I'm excited to see how TreVeyon Henderson does at the combine, how he measures, mostly because I suspect he's gonna not run and do a bunch of the stuff. The top tier Buckeyes typically do all that stuff at their pro day here in Columbus. So that's becoming more and more the norm. I think the interesting one's going to be the quarterbacks, because it's not a great quarterback class. And there's, even with Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, there's some questions. So it'll be interesting to see if they take it upon themselves to, throw the ball at the combine. But if not, we're going to see, guys like Jackson Dart and whatnot throwing the ball and to the receivers and stuff. So I'm excited. I'm bummed that fantasy season is over. I'm excited for rookie season, and I'm not looking to get into any startups. I have one Empire League that resets, so we are going to do a startup there, but I'm not looking to add any new leagues. It would have to be a super special, intriguing circumstance for me to add another league. So I'm excited for rookie draft prep. Getting stuff together so we can help people with their startup drafts, roll into the summer. You always put together a fantastic slate of shows to keep us rolling and get the team previews. The fantasy season never ends for us, and it's fantastic.
Well, and it should be a lot of fun. It'll be fun getting in there. I kind of enjoy watching the NFL playoffs almost a little bit more than the regular season sometimes, because there's less, this is a fantastic performance, but it is killing me.
Right.
37 leagues. You can just sit there and clap for people, or you can, when I'm watching a game, I don't care who scores a touchdown as long as the team I want is going to win.
Right.
That'll be fun to look forward to. But first, we get through week 18. So some of that joy might start this week, although not a lot of great or meaningful matchups. We do have a lot of the playoff picture in the NFL is already set. We are getting, for the third week in a row, Saturday games. So just giving you a heads up now, and you can start warning your wives this evening that you're going to be missing out on another full weekend. The first of those games, the 3-13 Cleveland Browns at the 11-5 Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, with a win, will lock up the 3 seed. So I think they're going to be playing for that. For the Browns, we've been told Jameis Winston likely only an emergency quarterback. They want to get a look at Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Bailey Zappi. I didn't even know he was a Brown. They will be doing it with no Jerome Ford, no David Njoku in this one, which ought to just be a real swell time. So they haven't given those guys a lot of weapons. I haven't had a lot of reason to be hopeful about Dorian Thompson-Robinson. The Ravens, meanwhile, do actually have something to play for. So what are you expecting to see in this game?
I expect it to be a blowout. Unfortunately, they said Bailey Zappi is going to be starting. Pierre Strong and Dante Foreman in the backfield. Now, we've seen Foreman perform well over the course of his career, but he's clearly down the depth chart here in Cleveland. Jordan Akins will be at tight end. Unfortunately, they're going against the Ravens, who need to win. The Browns are locked in at the number 3 pick right now. New England and Tennessee are in front of them. I feel like they're probably still going to be at the 3rd pick. And then they're going to have to trade. If New England stays at 1, the Browns are going to be like, oh, my God, we got to trade up to 1, because if we don't, somebody else and Sanders and Ward will then go 1 and 2, and we'll be left without a hot rookie quarterback, even though they have said that they're planning to bring in whatever starting caliber talent quarterback they can get off the free agent market. But they're, I think, they're $17 million or something over the salary cap as it sits right now going into next year. So they're going to have some significant work to do to add free agents. It'll be an interesting offseason. I'm not throwing any of these Browns in a DFS lineup, and I hope Bailey Zappi plays well, that we could use somebody that we can develop into a serviceable backup.
Yeah, and if for reasons surpassing understanding you do have a week 18 playoff game, I think you are okay with Jackson, Henry, Flowers, Andrews. They should all be playing, because as I mentioned, the Ravens actually do need a win to guarantee the 3rd seed, and I am certain that they would like to be the 3rd seed. Yeah,
and then if they lose, though, then Pittsburgh still has to win.
Yes. I think Pittsburgh's going to play hard regardless. We'll talk about that game next. I am taking the Ravens in this one.
So am I.
The other Saturday game, the 8-8 Cincinnati Bengals, who are still alive in the wild card hunt, at the 10-6 Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, some have argued that if the Ravens win, there's nothing for Pittsburgh to play for. Not so fast. If Pittsburgh loses and the Chargers, who are playing the Raiders, win, the Chargers would then jump them and become the number 5 seed, and they would go to Houston, and Pittsburgh would go to Baltimore. And honestly, I would think, for a couple of reasons, Pittsburgh would like to have some momentum after 2 dreadful weeks of losses. And B, I would think that whoever is going would rather be the 5th seed than the 6th seed in this particular wildcard playoffs. I do think they are going to play, and we know Cincinnati's going to play hard. So what are you expecting from this game?
So Cincinnati can only control what they can control. They have to win, and then they need a Denver loss and a Miami loss or a Miami tie. Now, unfortunately for them, Denver is getting the Carson Wentz led Kansas City Chiefs team. So it feels like the cards are stacked against them here, even with the needing help from two teams. Chase Brown is a game time decision, so Khalil Herbert's likely to get, even if Brown plays, he might be a little bit limited. But this offense runs through Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. So they're going to put up points against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh will get pressure on Burrow, but Burrow is very good at handling pressure and reacting to pressure. I think it's going to be on this. Honestly, I think Pittsburgh may struggle a little bit to keep up with Cincinnati's offense. I like Cincinnati's chances of winning. They're in Pittsburgh. It's not too far. It's a heated division rivalry, and I expect it to be an exciting game. Joey Porter Jr. is off the injury report, I believe, and so he's likely to try to shut down Jamar Chase, but we've seen that when that happens, they're more than willing to let T. Higgins eat and Mike Gesicki. And if the passing game gets going, then that may open up room for that running game. And we've seen Herbert, when he was in Chicago, break off some big plays, has some really good games. He didn't look terrible last week against I forget who they played last week, but when Brown went out, he's probably the best third string running back that the Bengals have had in some time. I'm going to count Zach Moss still here. This is a game where, especially on the Cincinnati side, if I'm playing this week, I'm hoping I have some Bengals. And if I'm playing DFS, I'm probably targeting that as well. This has the potential to be the last game in Cincinnati for T. Higgins. So, he's going to want to go out and show out. So I think I'm going to go the Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to pull it off.
I'm going with the Steelers. It's also partly a wish on my part. And you were right. Joey Porter, not on the injury report. Fellow corner Dante Jackson is with a back issue, so I'll have to watch that. Sunday games, the 4-12 Carolina Panthers at the 8-8 Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons with a win can remain in the playoff hunt technically. If Tampa Bay was to lose to the Saints, then the Falcons win, they would actually get in. Panthers have been playing well as spoilers. What are you expecting in this one?
Well, their running back room's a bit depleted. Chuba's on IR. Jonathan Brooks never really made it off IR, if we're being
Raheem
honest.
Blackshear, come on down.
And Miles Sanders has been designated for a return, so we could see the return of Miles Sanders in that backfield. And I think, honestly, if Sanders is back, he's probably going to be the lead back. But I do think coming off an injury, Blackshear will get a little more work than maybe closer to a 50-50 split. Atlanta's got some weapons, and Michael Penix, he's been up and down in his first two games. High completion percentage in his first game, only 54% in the second game. But he's made some nice passes and he's missed some passes bad. But he does have Bijan Robinson, and there is hope with Penix there. I kept looking for reasons to pick Carolina. I just don't know that they've got Thielen back, but I don't feel like they have quite enough weapons. It doesn't do them any good to win. And we said it last show, players don't tank, coaches don't tank, front offices tank, and so the Panthers are going to be playing hard. But I'm still taking the Falcons. I think they just have too much offensive firepower, and that Carolina defense is too weak.
Yeah, I'm taking the Panthers or the Falcons as well, but I do like how the Panthers have ended this season. NFC East battle: the Washington Commanders 11-5 at the Dallas Cowboys, who are 7-9. The Commanders, with a win and a Packers loss, could actually move up to the 6th seed. They are already in the playoffs, but I am guessing that they would love to avoid playing the Eagles in round one. So what are you expecting in this game?
I think the Commanders are going to roll, honestly. I think Dallas is falling apart. I don't want to say McCarthy has lost the team. I just think it's exemplar. It's an example of how good a coach Mike McCarthy is, basically, which is wild. I saw a headline on an article that I couldn't bring myself to read yesterday that said, well, if he's out in Dallas, McCarthy would be interested in Chicago. And I'm like, why the F would Chicago be interested in Mike McCarthy? So,
yeah,
it's like, who was it? Was it the Jets interviewing Ron Rivera? I'm like, oh my God, come on. Let's get some fresh blood in there. I think Washington's going to roll. I think Jaden Daniels it's late in the season now. He's ramped up his running game some. He's got a connection with McLaurin and Zacchaeus and Zach Ertz. Brian Robinson has fizzled out a little bit, but overall, I just think Jaden Daniels presents too much. Cowboys cut Zeke. CD's out for the rest of the year. It's Dak has been out for several weeks now. I think it's another Jalen Tolbert, show him what I can do game. Brandon Cooks just, putting some tape on, putting some plays on film so he can go and get a job next year. But I think it's Dallas is pretty much a mess, and I'm taking the Commanders.
I'm taking the Commanders as well. The other game in the NFC North, other than the one that we will talk about at the end, is the 4-12 Chicago Bears at the 11-5 Green Bay Packers. As I mentioned, Green Bay already in the playoffs, but if they lose this game and the Commanders win, they could slide to the 7th seed and have to be at Philadelphia. So I think they would probably like to win to maintain that. Not likely to see Christian Watson, may not see Josh Jacobs, who is dealing with a wrist injury. Rome Odunze has been sick and out for the Bears. Not sure anything matters for Chicago. They have looked lost. So what are you expecting in this one?
They're floundering. The Bears are floundering under Thomas Brown as much as they were under Matt Eberflus.
Probably more.
Yeah. They're struggling, DJ Moore's had an all right year. DeAndre Swift has had an all right year. Caleb Williams has been very up and down. And I'm not writing him off in fantasy football, in dynasty leagues. I'm not writing him off. I think it's been a learning year for him. My New Year's wish for Chicago is that they find a coach that can provide some stability and the ability to build an offense around Caleb Williams. Because they do have weapons with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and DeAndre Swift and hell, even Cole Kmet. They need to fortify the offensive line, the defense, put in a proper offense to give them the tools. Ultimately, early in the year, the offensive line really struggled. And then they got healthy and they gelled for a few weeks and Williams didn't look too bad. But then they got injured again and started falling apart on the offensive line, and then it kind of fell apart again. So I feel for Chicago. I don't expect much out of them here. I saw a mock draft that had Green Bay taking Luther Burden, and I'm like, do we think Luther Burden is an wide receiver? Can he be that? Can he be at least a DJ Moore? Can he be a Jamar Chase? Is he of that level? Because I don't think the Packers need another Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks level wide receiver. They have enough of those. They need to be like fantasy managers and say, hey, I'll send you Watson and Brooks and Bo Melton for, T. Higgins. That kind of, they need to make one of those kind of fantasy trades with the receivers they got to get in a true top tier number one receiver. I don't know that happens. We saw last week, I think, that with Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks, the Packers are pretty comfortable with their backups. Going into the playoffs, it's probably in their best interest to let Jacobs heal up, especially because I don't think the Bears are going to present a whole lot of issues for them. I'm taking the Packers.
I'm taking the Packers too, and I also wouldn't blame them for putting Jacobs a little bit of rest. Chris Brooks nicked up too, could be a good Emmanuel Wilson game. The 4-12 Jacksonville Jaguars at the 7-9 Indianapolis Colts, one of the games that has no impact on the postseason whatsoever. Probably not going to see Anthony Richardson, who's still not practicing with a back injury. What are we expecting in this one?
It's interesting that we saw that Richardson came out and said he's been having back spasms since he was in middle school. It's like, oh, I wonder, was that taken into consideration in that draft? I don't know. Jacksonville's, they're just trying to get to the end of the season. It feels like Doug Peterson's a dead man walking. And, Mac Jones is trying to rehab his image, and he's doing an all right job in Jacksonville. He doesn't have a ton of weapons. He's lost Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk. But Brian Thomas Jr. has been phenomenal. The running game, Bigsby had a stretch in the middle of the season when ETN was out where he really shined, but he got dinged up and he hasn't been able to get it back. And ETN, when he came back and Bigsby was out, has not lit it up by any stretch of the imagination. So by and large, Jacksonville has struggled, and it does feel like they're gonna, we'll be talking about them on Tuesday's show and the coaching carousel. Indianapolis, Jonathan Taylor has been white hot. Joe Flacco's been up and down, but he's been far better as a passer than Anthony Richardson, mostly because I don't know if he even can run. He's him and I swear I saw him in line at the AARP meeting. But we're looking for Indianapolis to keep doing what they're doing. Joe Flacco knows how to use those receivers, though managers of Josh Downs last couple weeks might agree to disagree. But Pittman and Alec Pierce have certainly done well. Hell, Flacco has even got a tight end involved. And then Jonathan Taylor has just been dominating on the ground. It's an easy pick for the Colts here, they're sitting at. They have the 12th pick going into this weekend. And looks like, hell, they could drop as low as 17 maybe, which is kind of a bummer. But
I'm taking them too. I think the Colts will get the win. Another game that's essentially meaningless. Buffalo Bills 13-3 locked into the 2 seed. I believe they are planning on resting a lot of their players. The Patriots 3-13 currently sit as the number 1 overall draft pick. They have said they're playing all their starters and they are playing for wins. What are you expecting for this game?
I expect them dumbasses to do their best to win the game. Luckily for them, Josh Allen's going to come in and play a series at most to maintain his consecutive start streak. But I don't think he's going to be in there for long. I think the hard thing is, like, then who else is they? Who are they going to sit? Probably James Cook. On the receiving core, the best one is probably Khalil Shakir. But, like, is he worthy of sitting? I don't know. That depends on, they'll probably sit some defensive guys. It's an odd game, and you're definitely, if you are playing this week and you roster Bills, even if I have Josh Allen, I'm not going to start him. He's only going to. It wouldn't surprise me if he was in there for one play, or wouldn't surprise me if he's in there for one series, but I don't think it's going to be more than that.
I'm still taking the Bills, though.
Yeah, I think that I think it's going to come down to, can Trubisky put up enough points to beat New England? I think with New England trying to win, it's going to be a close game. There'll definitely be opportunities for Drake May to continue to build on what he's done. But with Buffalo having some starters out on defense, I think it's going to be close. I just think Buffalo overall has more weapons when you go deeper into their team, and Trubisky will be fine. And I think Christian Gonzalez may be trending towards out as well. And, when your best
Drake May trying to raise his draft capital if you buy that latest mock draft yesterday where they take Shadur Sanders and trade Drake May. Oh, New England.
So, anyways, no, I think Robert and Jonathan Kraft are probably talking and saying, look, if we get this number 1 pick, we're going to be able to move back and we're going to be able to get there. I would be surprised if they stay at 1. I don't know who of Tennessee, Cleveland, and New York is likely to come up there and give them the deal they want so they can get the first quarterback. But, they probably, if they're in love with Travis Hunter, I could see him, if they don't get the deal they want, staying. I don't know if they're going to drop all the way down to, the middle of the first round, but maybe they get a package that makes it appealing to them to say, we've got Christian Gonzalez. There's other wide receivers that we can target that are really good in this draft. It's going to be interesting to watch if New England is able to hold on to that number 1 pick, because I don't expect them to pick there.
The team that used to hold the number 1 pick, the New York Giants, 3-13 at the 13-3 Philadelphia Eagles. A lot being made of that ill-advised victory last week. A lot of questions swirling around Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. Do you think one or both is back in 2025?
I think so. It feels like the team is playing hard for them, even though they're playing bad. They lost Kayvon Thibodeau on defense for a stretch. Losing Daniel Jones, even though he wasn't playing great, he was still the best quarterback on the roster. Piecing it together with Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock has, been something. They've got Malik Neighbors. Losing Andrew Thomas on the offensive line was probably the biggest blow to that team. They need offensive linemen. Evan Neal is a gargantuan bust. They need while they do need a quarterback, they also need an offensive lineman, and they should probably try to get 2 O-linemen in their first 3 picks. Then if they can't do that, they need to be active in free agency. They need a severe O-line upgrade. I think Daboll's back. I think there'll be enough extenuating circumstances for them to keep him.
I think both those guys are gone, personally, but we shall see. Meanwhile, the Eagles
are surprised if they're gone.
Meanwhile, the Eagles have said that they are going to rest their starters, which means Saquon Barkley, who is only 101 yards away from the all-time single-season rushing record, will not get a chance to get it. Been a lot of back and forth this week about whether that's the right decision, even some of his family weighing in. What do you make of it?
So what was the question again?
The Eagles resting their starters, so Saquon not going to get a chance to go.
I'm torn. I get it, though. I mean, to be fair, he had plenty of opportunities earlier in the season to accumulate the 100 yards, and he sat out later in games and let, the other backs rack up some stats. There's definitely two schools of thought in resting your players or not resting them going into the playoffs. We've seen teams rest players and have successful playoff runs, and we've seen teams rest players and be flat and get knocked out when they play their first round game. So it's a coin flip to see like what's going to happen. Would it have been neat to see him do it? What I find funny is there are a lot of people out there on social media going, oh, well, it shouldn't have counted because Dickerson did his in 16 games and yada, yada, yada. Well, OJ did his in 14 games, and we're perfectly happy giving it to Dickerson. So the season is what the season is.
I think the most compelling thing is looking at number of carries, and Eric Dickerson still with almost 40 more carries than what Saquon's had so far. So Saquon a better yards per average if you were just talking about work.
Right.
They're on par. I'm disappointed we don't get a chance to see it because I also think if he would have gotten that record, it would really have helped his case for being MVP. And I still think he's been more valuable to this Eagles team than either Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen has been to their teams. And I think this really kills him in the MVP race.
Well, I think that they'll definitely, when considering the vote, people are going to take into consideration the likelihood that he would have gotten it. But, I don't know. Tanner McKee's likely to get the start, Pickett out, and Pickett is trending to be out, and Jalen Hurts. AJ Brown's dinged up. He's probably going to be sitting as well. So, it's literally the only thing they have to play for would have been Barkley getting the record. We'll see with him out. I don't think the Giants are going to have another miraculous, surprising victory here. So I'm taking.
No. Yeah, I'm still taking the Eagles as well. Next up, a game that does have some implications: the 5-11 New Orleans Saints at the 9-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers need to win to get into the playoffs. Interestingly enough, the Saints are tracking to activate Chris Olave off of IR, and it looks like Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara might have a chance to play too. So the Saints 5-11, not a lot to play for, but do you think they are trying to play spoiler?
I think Rizzi's trying to put himself in the best position he can to maybe get the job. I don't think Rizzi's going to get the job, but I wouldn't mind seeing Spencer Rattler with Chris Olave and seeing if he can, improve a little bit. Rattler's been out there playing with a UFL team for most of his starts, him and Haener both. But I don't know. It feels to me, if you were to make me put $1 down right now on it, I'm going to bet that Olave, Kamara, and Carr all sit.
Yeah, we'll have to see, but it's certainly interesting as we go into Friday, all of them, and Carr has said he wants to get back in and wants to play. The Saints 0-6 without him so far this year.
Players don't tank.
For Tampa Bay, Mike Evans sitting at 915 yards, just 85 yards away from that 1,000-yard mark. Do you think he gets it?
I do. I think and Baker's already come out and said, hey, if we're winning, he's getting the record. Are getting 1,000 yards. I think sans an injury, I don't see any way that you're not going to throw the ball to Mike Evans. Marshawn Lattimore's not there anymore, so it isn't like he's going to get ejected, theoretically, I guess.
That's true.
But, 85 yards, he's put himself in a great position to get the yardage. It wouldn't surprise me if he went out and got it in the first half. Baker's going to be chucking it up to him. Bucky Irving's having a great year. Rachaad White's a serviceable number 2. Jalen McMillan has come out of seemingly nowhere to be a really, really good number 2. And Wan'Dale Robinson even is playing well out of the slot. So
That's the Giants.
the Sterling Shepard, former Giant, is playing well out of the slot for them. Same guy, what it means is that they're not going to be able to focus so much extra coverage on Mike Evans. I think New Orleans is going to try to prevent him from getting that against them because, well, it's a division rival and, teams are petty. I just don't think they'll be able to stop him. I think he's going to cruise. It wouldn't surprise me if he put up 150 or 160 yards. It wouldn't surprise me if he put up 86 yards in the first half and we didn't see him at all in the second half.
I mean, if the Saints are pushing him, I think we're going to have to see everybody in the second half because Tampa Bay has to win. This game will be going on at the same time as the Falcons game, so they won't know the outcome. I am taking the Buccaneers.
So am I.
On to the late window games, the 15-1 Kansas City Chiefs at the 9-7 Denver Broncos. Broncos need a win or a tie to punch their ticket to the playoffs. Chiefs, already the number 1 overall seed, are resting players. Carson Wentz starting in this one, so what are we expecting here?
I think Wentz wants to show that maybe he still deserves a shot. So he's going to come out and play hard. It'll be interesting to see who else they sit. Are they going to, I would suspect they sit Hopkins because he's old. I would suspect they sit Kelsey because he's old and they've got no. What's that?
Chris Jones.
Yeah. I think it's going to be an offense that runs through Carson Wentz and Hollywood Brown, if I'm being honest. I think Brown's only been back a couple weeks. They want to get him as many reps in the offense. And I think Wentz is a good enough quarterback to be able to execute that offense. The challenge is going to be, is Hollywood going to be able to perform against Patrick Surtain or who's the other cat, Riley Moss, that they got?
Yep, Riley Moss. It looks like on their injury report, Trent McDuffie, Chris Jones, Isaiah Pacheco, all dealing with injuries. Wouldn't be surprised if they hold all of them out. None of them have been practicing.
Yeah. So, Denver needs to win to get in. They're playing hard. And Bo Nix has had if it wasn't for Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix would be Rookie of the Year. He's played above and beyond. He's developed
as a case for Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah,
because what he's done with crap all around him is, his team hasn't been successful, not because of him.
Right. No, but tie goes to the quarterback. I like what Denver's got going on. They're going to have all their guys in. Cortland Sutton's going to be rolling. Marvin Mims had a breakout game last week, so he's probably going to have 1 rush for 3 yards and 0 for 4 on targets.
Who's to say? He's been doing better the last few games. They've been getting him more involved in the offense.
He has. I think it's been he's had at least 4 targets. I think 5 of the last 6 weeks, with a season high 8 last week.
He's just one of those. His target could be 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage, or it could be 60 yards down the field. Those are your.
So what you're saying is, if he gets 2 targets, it's going to be a 30-yard ADOT.
It could be. I'm taking the Broncos.
I am. I'm gonna support you, brother. I'm taking the Broncos too.
10-6 Los Angeles Chargers at the 4-12 Las Vegas Raiders. The Chargers said they are.
I'm going to expect that to be returned here at the end of this show.
There's only one team that I've been taking them even when you haven't been. So.
I know.
The 10-6 Los Angeles Chargers at the 4-12 Las Vegas Raiders. The Chargers have said all week that they are playing to win the game. What are we expecting here?
So I think it's going to be, I don't know if close is the right word, but I don't think we're going to see the Chargers up by 3 touchdowns. Now, We could, because you never know. Lad McConkey can go bonkers again. J.K. Dobbins coming back. Look pretty good. Joshua Palmer and Quentin Johnston both provide balance to that offense. If Johnston is clicking and his hands are working, he can take a pass. He can take one of those 5-yard crossers, 75 yards for a touchdown on any given play. Herbert is a good quarterback. I think Max Crosby's, is he still out, or did he come back?
Crosby's on IR.
Okay, I thought so. So, the best player on the Vegas defense is out. I think that the passing game and to an extent the running game is going to continue to eat for the Chargers, and I think they roll pretty well. I think Las Vegas is putting up a good fight, but I still expect them to lose by double digits.
So I am taking the Chargers as well. Next up, the 9-7 Seahawks at the 10-6 Los Angeles Rams. Rams have already won the NFC West. Seahawks eliminated. The Rams are going to be starting Jimmy G. What are you expecting in this one?
I expect an overwhelming amount of handsomeness. The Rams did the Rams make the playoffs or no?
They won the NFC West. It's over.
Okay. That's right. That's why I would explain why Garoppolo is starting. I think, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, it's going to really depend on how healthy they are. We're going to see a lot of Blake Corum. We're probably going to see a lot of Tutu Atwell and Demarcus Robinson and Jordan Whittington, and not a whole heck of a lot of Puka. And
Whittington may not play. He is questionable. I don't think they are going to play Nacua or Kupp or Kyron Williams. I think they decided that because they're either getting the Packers or the Commanders next week. Right.
So it's one of those games where, what can we get? Is there anything left at all in the Jimmy Garoppolo tank is what we're going to be looking at. The Seahawks, they're going to play hard. I think Geno and they put Kenneth Walker on IR, didn't they?
Yes, he is on IR.
That bodes well, even though Charbonnet crapped the bed in the last game.
In the one that mattered for fantasy.
Yeah. But Seattle's, Jackson Smith and Jigba has had a phenomenal year. DK Metcalf has been up and down. Noah Fant has been serviceable at times as a tight end. AJ Barner, even occasionally, if you were like desperate times, call for desperate measures looking for a tight end, he's had some non-zero point games. But the offense, I think, really, it's going to be Geno, JSN, and Zach Charbonnet leading the way. DK will probably get a few shots. He'll be up there in targets. Will he be able to convert? I think against the Rams, probably. So it looks like Seattle has a heck of a lot more to play for in this game. And while I want to see, as bad as the quarterback position is, I want to see something out of Jimmy G to see, like, is there still a chance he could be a starter somewhere? Probably not, but he's probably in the right role, backing up an established veteran, playing football. Jesus,
I am taking the Seahawks in this one.
So am I.
The 8-8 Miami Dolphins at the 4-12 New York Jets. Dolphins, this game happens at the same time as the Denver game. The Dolphins, with a win and the Broncos loss, would be in, so they're going to be playing hard. Aaron Rodgers, a lot of questions this week about whether it's his last game. Certainly sounded like somebody who was much closer to the end than the beginning. Do you think this is his final NFL game?
I think it should be. And Woody Johnson has basically said it's his last game in New York, at least for the Jets. So it's not to say he might not end up across town on the Giants, but across the field on the Giants, whatnot. It is The New York experience for Aaron Rodgers has been nothing but a train wreck. And I don't know any way around it. I don't know what might have made it different. He came in, he was able to bring his own guys, and it just didn't work. I think it's going to be, they're cleaning house. They're going to eat whatever contract they have, I think, on Devontae Adams as well, and clear him out. And they're going to, get back to the Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson offense, DJ Reed, Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner on defense. They've got the talent on this team. There's no real reason they should have been 4-12.
So the thing is, though, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't do them a favor and retire, it is a $49 million dead cap hit to get rid of him at the end of this season. So, and I don't know if he find anyone to trade for him. I do feel like he's going to retire, though, because I just think these last 2 years, the last really 3 years, since he went into that darkness retreat and decided whether he was going to come back, probably haven't done his legacy any favors, because he was really bad. They were really bad too. It was last year in Green Bay, and then the 2 years, as you mentioned, at New York have been a disaster. The 9-7 Houston Texans at the 3-13 Tennessee Titans. This game pretty meaningless for both teams. Texans locked into the 4 seed no matter what. So what are we expecting?
Well, to clarify, we both picked the Dolphins in the last game.
Oh yeah, I for sure picked the Dolphins. The Jets, I think I said a couple weeks ago, I don't see a reason to pick the Jets anymore.
Right. Houston's clinched the number 4 seed. Deontay Johnson is supposed to play for Houston, which that'll be interesting to see. I don't know that it matters. They're going up against a Tennessee team that's got a pretty good run defense. Joe Mixon's not an efficient running back, but even his performances have been down as of late. Houston got lucky, and they're in a bad division, and 9 or 10 wins is gonna get you the title there.
I've also seen some speculation they may actually start or rest some of their starters, since the game they can't move their seed one way or the other.
Houston?
Yeah.
And maybe. I know, Davis Mills is probably one of the better backups in the league for whatever that's worth. Damian Pierce, it'd be interesting to see how he's, give him a full workload and see, did he really learn how to run in his own scheme finally? Because he was in a man blocking scheme early in his career. He looked great, but then when Raheem Morris came in, they changed that offensive blocking scheme, and it just did not work for Pierce. I like the parts. It's probably not the worst thing in the world for them to rest some of their guys. It also wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for them to go out and play those guys and get a victory and go. It feels like a team that needs to go into the playoffs with momentum, as opposed to trying to explain away a meaningless loss.
Especially after getting clocked in their Christmas Day game.
Yeah. So I get you want to preserve injuries, but whatnot. Maybe play your guys for 2 or 3 quarters and put up a bunch of points so you got something to feel good about.
Titans, meanwhile, Tyjae Spears doubtful. Tony Pollard still not practicing. Not likely to play. Tyler Boyd and Chigo Okonkwo also unable to practice. So woe to those who get this as their featured game in the market they are in.
Tennessee or if Houston rests a bunch of guys, then it should be a fairly even match.
I know. I'm still taking the Texans.
So am I.
The San Francisco 49ers 6-10 at the 7-9 Arizona Cardinals. What are you expecting out of this game?
Well, no Brock Purdy, Josh Dobbs getting the start.
Which may not be a terrible thing. I mean, he's one of the better backups.
Yeah, and it's if honestly, like, what's the incentive to play some of the other guys too? They're playing for pride now. Does it? What they're sitting at pick 11. I don't think winning and joining a group of Indianapolis, Dallas, and Arizona and having to vie for a higher draft pick, is the best move. So if I'm the front office, I may sit Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa. I may sit some veterans that are banged up. They haven't had Trent Williams at left tackle for quite some time because of some personal issues.
And an injury.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a fairly, sloppy game. Kittle, I think they'll have to strap George Kittle to a chair to keep him from playing.
I think those guys are going to go out and play because they want to win to end their season. I'm actually picking the 49ers. I think that they are going to try to beat Arizona. Arizona, meanwhile, doesn't have a running back. James Conner went on IR. Amari DiMarcado and Trey Benson were already there. So,
hey, Michael Carter.
Yeah. Lord. I'm still taking the Niners.
Yeah, me too.
Probably the best game of the week and possibly the season
probably
is Sunday night. The Minnesota Vikings 14-2 at the 14-2 Detroit Lions. The winner gets the 1 seed and a bye. The loser, the 5th seed, and will be on the road at either Tampa Bay or the Los Angeles Rams. What are you expecting?
I expect it to be a game for the ages. I like what Minnesota has been able to do this year. Getting TJ Hawkinson back, he's going to be playing in a revenge game here. And Sam Darnold has had a great year. It's been a really great comeback story for Sam Darnold. Getting a win and with the number 1 seed would be monumental for the Vikings. It would also be monumental for Detroit. And Detroit went out last week, and I'm curious because they're both sitting at 14-2. Oh, I guess they would have tied then. Never mind. I would say how the game last week didn't matter. My brain started to get puzzled if Minnesota coming in would have had one more win, but never mind. Detroit gets Alex. It looks like they're going to get Alex Anzalone back maybe as early as this week, and they need him. That defense he's
practicing in full. They are projecting him to play Sunday night.
That defense has been bad with the injuries. To me, I'm nervous as a Lions fan because I got to watch the walking PI Terrion Armstead probably go up against Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison. So I think Armstead's going to be, or Terrion Arnold is going to be a good NFL cornerback. He just is learning the difference between playing at Bowling Green or Toledo and playing in the NFL, but he's got all the tools. Detroit's going to need to get pressure on Sam Darnold. I think they're going to have to be creative with that, losing 3 of their 4 starting offensive linemen. They did bring in Zadarius Smith, so that's a plus. But they've got to play big. This defense or this team is only going to go as far as this defense will take them. They have an offense that can score with anybody, but the defense is going to have to be. They're going to have to just make big plays and timely stops, and getting Alex Anzalone back is going to help that. Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, the safeties, are phenomenal. I think we lost Carlton Davis too, the cornerback, who was our second cornerback. He went on IR. So it's. I expect a lot of points in this game. I expect Minnesota to put up points. I expect Detroit to put up points. Brian Flores has a very, very good defense. It's going to be quite the matchup with Ben Johnson and Brian Flores, I think. So, but I'm taking the Lions.
Yeah, Carlton Davis is on IR because he broke his jaw. They do not think that he will be able to return for the playoffs. Aiden Hutchinson said he is tracking. If they made the Super Bowl, he would be able to come off IR. Alex Anzalone and Cleve Raymond are projected to play on Sunday night, as is Emmanuel Mosley. So maybe getting some pieces back. I am taking the Lions.
One pride, baby.
Yeah, so I've been on them all season. They were my picks to win the Super Bowl before the season. It doesn't feel like the time to jump off the train now.
No, it does not.
It's going to be a heck of a game. This is one where, they have the division structure and it's been there for a long time, but it is kind of sad to think that either of these teams ends up having to open the playoffs on the road somewhere. But Minnesota has certainly been a big surprise this season. Detroit has been everything we could have hoped for. So it's going to be a heck of a Sunday night football game. There's one of the major film awards is taking place on CBS on Sunday night. I told our friend Ricky, I'm like, I don't think anyone's watching those awards.
Yes.
CBS snagged the Golden Globe contract from NBC because NBC wasn't going to play it on a Sunday night. They're like, you'd have to be on Monday because we have Sunday night football. And this is why.
Right. Game matters.
That'll do it for us today. There's literally no college games today, right? I think all the big games are over.
Next Thursday.
Yeah, so we will be back on Tuesday talking about whatever happens this weekend and whatever coaching moves are made. I know there's been a lot during the season, but there will be, I'm sure, a few postseason exits as well. But Dennis, if people are looking for something to fill up their Friday night, what can they do?
You can go over to their favorite podcast platform, hit that search bar, type in the Fantasy Football Roundtable podcast. Give us a subscribe, give us a like. Let's get them numbers up heading into the new year. Y'all have yourselves a happy 2025.
Yep. And you guys have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the slate of games, and we will see you on Tuesday.